Welcome to the INFOWARS Nightly News. I'm David Knight. It's Monday, November 16th, 2015. Here are our top stories.
Tonight, fact-checking the lies of the Democratic debate. Then, a look at nuclear preparedness in popular culture and how political correctness contributed to the Paris attacks. That's next.
And the system knows that the public is so politically ignorant and so politically dumbed down that when the very groups our governments have been funding attack us, the response won't be, hey, we should prosecute the politicians like Hillary Clinton that were neck deep in all this. Hey, we should have congressional hearings. Hey, we shouldn't have been doing this all along. Hey, we should be releasing the 28 pages of the 9/11 Commission. But instead, we're told the answer is take out Assad, who for 5 clean, pure drinking water. You can't survive without it. But where do you get it? Alexa Pure Pro is a brand new, groundbreaking, gravity-fed water filtration system that is like no other. The Alexa Pure Pro transforms water from virtually any fresh source into clean, healthy drinking water, pairing the unprecedented superfiltration power of an all-new gravity block core with a hybrid chromatic shell. It removes up to 99.999% of impurities, including bacteria, viruses, fluoride, disinfectants, volatile organic contaminants, and hormones. Filter capacity up to 5,000 gallons. Stainless steel construction, easy assembly, low maintenance. Replacement filters are simple to install. And now, as part of an exclusive limited time introductory offer, you can save $20 off the retail price and get free shipping. This is a limited time offer, so order your unit today and receive free shipping and $20 off. Go to InfoWarsStore.com or call 888-253-3139.
Well, this was a busy weekend for news. Of course, we had the terrorist attacks in Paris. On Saturday, we had the Democrat debate. And we're going to talk about what's going on in Paris with some new updates from our reporters who are there, as well as what is coming next in terms of the, as they break down and destroy Western civilization. Right at Paris, they're going to rebuild a new foundation for a world government. That's what they're going to do with the climate treaty that they're coming at in just 2 weeks in Paris. But let's go to the Democrat debate first. We had an article that was at the top of the Drudge Report today talking about how Hillary Clinton is often confused. Now, they got this from emails that were obtained by Judicial Watch with a Freedom of Information Act request. In these emails, one in particular is an exchange going back and forth between Huma Abedin, the close confidant of Hillary Clinton, saying that Hillary is often confused. And in the context, they were talking about how, have you been going over her calls with her? So she knows that she has to see the Indian Prime Minister at 8. She's got a call with him. And then Hanley comes back to Huma Abedin and says, well, she was in bed for a nap by the time I heard she had an 8 a.m. call. I'll go over that with her. Huma Abedin said, it's very important to do that. She is often confused. And we're going to see in this debate just how confused she gets about things like gun statistics. But there's other things that came out of these emails with a FOIA request from Judicial Watch. They say the Clinton top aide attempted to obtain special treatment from the State Department for business associates and relatives. Huma, how could you? Then also, Huma Abedin received emails from her mother, who is a controversial Islamicist activist. So we're going to talk about the Wall Street cronyism that we see in these emails, where they're getting special treatment from the State Department for business associates and relatives. We're also going to talk about how Islamic activists cannot be named by the candidates during the debate. All this came out during the debate. Now, the debate itself had very disappointing ratings. They had lost 7 million viewers from the last Democrat debate, which had not achieved the kind of viewership the Republican Party debates had. It's down 45% in this second debate. And they say that it was unprecedented, unilateral, and arbitrary the way the DNC chair determined this schedule. These are complaints from her opponents, from Governor O'Malley's deputy campaign manager. She said, it's clear we need to open up the process. We need to have more debates. We need to engage more voters in this process. Well, you understand that the debate schedule was set up precisely to keep any of that stuff from happening. They don't want you to vet the candidates, particularly Hillary Clinton. They want to coronate her through without any opposition from any other Democrat candidates, and they don't want the public to see her. We're going to take a look at some of the things that came up in the debate, because although the debate itself and the election itself is a very manipulated, very dishonest process, the way they count the votes as well, it's still important to see how they lie and to call them out on their lies, to see how they believe that they can get away not only with lying, but also, as we know in the case of the Clintons, with murder. Now, they point out that the next debates are going to be even less watched, because the next one that's coming up is the Saturday night before Christmas. Then they're going to have the Sunday night of the Martin Luther King Day weekend, which is going to also be during NFL playoffs. So they're not expecting to see many people tuning in to watch this. They point out the obvious again. A Democrat campaign says, look, there was a clear intent to bury these debates to the benefit of Hillary Clinton. Yeah, you can't have people seeing her lie. And of course, they even turned off the debate. It was such a snooze fest. They turned it off with 7 minutes to spare. But let's look at some of the things that came out here. Clearly, I don't think that Hillary Clinton was confused on the gun statistics that she put out. I think she was just flat out lying. And they point out in the Huffington Post, they say, apparently, if you're a Democrat presidential candidate, there's no longer such a thing as being too strict about gun safety. They were all trying to out-gun control each other. And this was the day after, remember, we had 120 plus people die, showing the futility of gun control in France. And they want to give us exactly that same type of system. Take away your right of self-defense. And of course, look at the way the tactics on how they approach this argument. That's why it's important to take a look at the debates. You see their tactics. You see how they're going to try to sell this to the public. And you have an opportunity to push back against these lies and distortions. Clinton called Bernie Sanders' vote in favor of the 2005 Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act a terrible mistake. Now, what does this do? This would shield manufacturers, distributors, and sellers of guns and ammunition from civil lawsuits when others are seeking damages, injunctive, or other relief resulting from the misuse of their products by others. You understand? Listen to that phrase there. The misuse of their products by others. Now, it doesn't matter if this is guns or if it's cars or whatever it is, okay? If it's the misuse of somebody's products by other people, there is no negligence there. Clinton understands that. She's a lawyer. She knows what negligence is. You're not negligent if you sell something to somebody and then somebody misuses it in a way to harm other people. If somebody takes a car made by Chevy and drives it into a crowd of people in a terrorist attack, you shouldn't be able to sue Chevy. And the liberals will say, well, guns were only meant to kill people. No, they were also meant to defend people. And there are innumerable and uncounted times that people have defended themselves without having to fire a shot at anyone. The mere presence of firearms deters that kind of activity. Now, they go on from there and they say, well, Sanders says, I don't think there's a disagreement in this, and because he wants to make himself appear to be in support of taking down the Second Amendment. O'Malley said that as well. O'Malley said, well, Hillary, you've been on all three sides of this. You portrayed yourself as Annie Oakley in 2008. I seem to have missed that when she was portraying herself as Annie Oakley. But nevertheless, they say, when O'Malley was parading about that, Sanders came back to O'Malley and he says, I think it's fair to say Baltimore is not now one of the safest cities in America. Well, of course it isn't. Anywhere where you enact rigid gun control, you are going to have more crime. We have seen that as a pattern. It's a very obvious pattern. Now, let's take a look at what she actually said, though. Here's the amazing thing that Hillary Clinton said. She said, since we last debated in Las Vegas, nearly 3,000 people have been killed by guns. Total lie. 200 children. Total lie. 21 mass shootings. Total lie. With 3 people killed. Total lie. Everything about that was a total lie. AP points that out in their fact check. And as a matter of fact, there weren't 21 mass shootings. There was 1 mass shooting, and that's the one she's talking about in Des Moines. And there weren't 3 people killed. There was 1 person killed. But let's take a look at the special treatment from State Department and business associates and realtors. Remember that was talked about in the email? Does that really happen? You know, Bernie Sanders was talking about how candidates are influenced when they take money. He says, yeah, everybody says they're not influenced by this when they take the money, but nevertheless, let's play this clip and see how Hillary reacts.
I represented New York, and I represented New York on 9/11. When we were attacked, where were we attacked? We were attacked in downtown Manhattan, where Wall Street is. I did spend a whole lot of time and effort helping them rebuild. That was good for New York, it was good for the economy, and it was a way to rebuke the terrorists who had attacked our country.
Well, he's talking about corruption. He's talking about people involved in crony capitalism, and Hillary immediately thinks he's talking about her. Why would she think that? She immediately says, essentially, I resemble that remark, and here's what she has to say.
John, wait a minute, wait a minute.
Personal privilege.
He has basically used his answer to impugn my integrity. Let's be frank here. Oh, wait a minute, Senator. You know, not only do I have hundreds of thousands of donors, most of them small, and I'm very proud that for the first time, a majority of my donors are women, 60%.
Amazing, isn't it? She says she took the money from Wall Street so she could rebuke the terrorists of 9/11. No, you know what? Hillary wasn't representing the people of New York. She was representing Wall Street. And that's one of the most amazing pushbacks of people who are on the payroll of big money I've ever seen. Then they went from this and they said, well, who's a populist? And Bernie Sanders wanted to point out where he got his money from. Here's what he had to say.
This campaign contribution will not influence me. I'm going to be independent. Well, why do they make millions of dollars of campaign contributions? They expect to get something. Everybody knows that.
Now understand what's going on. Bernie is talking about how he gets his money from small donors like Ron Paul did, like Rand Paul and other candidates do. He says, we got $750,000 at $30 a piece. He said, that's who I'm indebted to. And hear the way that Hillary spins that. She says, well, I have a lot of women who support me. I have 100,000 women who have supported me. Well, that doesn't say anything. That's not a response. Does she have more women sending her money than Bernie Sanders does? Does she get more money from women than she does from Wall Street? And, you know, that doesn't even have any influence as to where does the money come from small donors? Well, AP looked at it in terms of fact checks. They pointed out that if you look at small donors, people who have given less than $200, Hillary's donors, that's only 17% of her donations, 17%. But Sanders, it accounts for 74%. So if you're looking at who the small donors are supporting, it's like 80% of the money of Bernie Sanders is coming from small donors, but only 28% of Hillary Clinton's donors. So they got the 80-20 rule exactly upside down. So yes, she is the candidate of big money. He does have smaller donors who are giving him money. Understand, too, that Hillary Clinton has just one super PAC alone that is expected to give her more than $100 million. She has 7 donors at least who have given her $1 million each. So if she's got 100,000 female donors that she points out, and of course it's only important if they're women, somehow that makes it more important. I'm a woman, I've got females who are giving me money. Well, let's say she has 100,000 women who are giving her $50, okay? That's $5 million, and that's not as much as 7 of these fat cats on Wall Street gave her. Then they go to who's a real socialist, and they asked Bernie Sanders, how high would you go on tax rates, Bernie, for all these programs that you want to do, all these giveaways? And he says this.
Well, let's get specific. How high would you go? You've said before you'd go above 50%. How high?
We haven't come up with an exact number yet, but it will not be as high as the number under Dwight D. Eisenhower, which was 90%. But it will be. I'm not that much of a socialist compared to Eisenhower.
So isn't that amazing? He says, well, I don't really know yet. I haven't come up with the numbers yet. Just typical socialist, isn't it? They have no idea how much this is going to cost. They just promise people the world. But then he comes back and he said something very amazing. He says, oh, it'll probably be less than 90% because I'm not as much of a socialist as Eisenhower. Let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at the data as to the data rates. And of course, O'Malley chimed in and said, well, Ronald Reagan, he had 70% tax rates. That's an outright lie as well. And of course, CBS and AP let him get away with that. Because you have to understand that when you look at these rates, what were the rates when somebody came into office and what were the rates when they came out? Who's the real socialist? Was it Eisenhower? Was it Reagan? Was it maybe FDR, the hero of all the socialists? Let's take a look at the minimum rates when FDR started and when he ended, okay? When he began, there was a 4% rate that kicked in at $70,000. And these are all figures that are adjusted to 2013. So these are constant dollars. This is in 2013 dollars. And this is for married filing jointly. So 4% and $70,000 when FDR comes in. That's the minimum rates.